Back 35 years ago, we did our first weaving with design in it, and in our culture, we're supposed to give our first weaving away, and so we decided that our chief and council, we would pick names to give it to that person, and I was so lucky to pick my own father's name, and he received my first weaving, which I have right here. And I still hold it today. 2 years after I learned how to do this weaving, he passed of lung cancer, and he was one of my inspirations as well to keep going, because said he was so proud of me for bringing back our weaving to our community. As he went to residential school, he was the one that informed me about what was taken away from us, and hearing those words come from him made me determined to carry on and keep going. And I still sit at my loom today and think about the words he said to me 35 years ago.
We actually wanted to know what was in our community visually that was missing, because we didn't see anything visually anymore for like 50 years, 60, 80 years. There was nothing like this that we ever saw. And we would see the northern people and the southern people with all their beautiful regalia and beautiful different ways in which they created. And we thought, what were we doing? So we started researching it and looking around and asking our elders. And our grandfather happened to tell us about the weaving. We said, we didn't know about it. Why didn't you tell us? And he said, well, we didn't think it was important to tell you or teach you, because you'd never use it. And we thought, well, that's not true. I can say that it's who I am. And when I say passion, it means that I sort of live it every day. This is about what we would be doing pre-contact.
Growing up, there were not a lot of weavings around. So we weren't exposed to it. We didn't see it. There's this resurgence happening now where you go to a ceremony and you see weavings. You see woven headbands, you see woven capes, woven mats, and they're being used in ceremony. They're being worn as regalia.
We had one weaver in our community in 2004, so we took it upon ourselves to really set up our mind that we had to start teaching our youth and teaching our elders, teaching those community members that were residential school survivors.
Bringing it back to the Squamish people, when we're weaving, the ancestors come, they're so happy to see us do it again, as well as the elders. So it's bringing a lot to our community.
It's a window to the past. It's a way of connecting to our ancestors. When I sit at the loom, that's what I feel, is I'm reaching back into the past and bringing forward, some traditional knowledge and ways of thinking and ways of expressing and ways of holding our knowledge through the weaving. Something that's for us here today and something that can be brought into the future. It's like a way of documenting.
I've been a weaver since the early 80s, I think, and I taught weaving. And I was really influenced by the whole history of women connected to weaving and the whole mythology, Greek mythology, to do with weaving. Penelope weaves, and Arachne is weaved, and Arachne is sort of punished for weaving, for challenging a goddess in her weaving, and then she's turned into a spider. So those things have always been interesting to me. I see weaving as a storytelling. Weaving and text and textile are sort of connected.
We're going to stitch it all together, so that's going to be really significant too, when all the pieces and all the different weavers come together and then we stitch it, and this is going to be the container that holds all that.
من مساجدهم أخرجوا وفي مساجدهم استشهدوا ففي فسحة الخروج والشهادة بنوا مسجدا. The night that Da asked me to write a piece happened to be the night where here in our Pacific time, we were starting to hear about the terror attack that happened in Christchurch. So I think that my poetry is really observational, and it helps me process what's going on in my life.
The pattern and the border, it's basically the poem, but using a square Kufic script, which is, Arabic calligraphy script, but it does look like a pattern, and it's used a lot in like buildings, and you'll see it a lot in like mosques. The reason why I didn't want to use traditional, like very cursive calligraphy, because I didn't want people to see and be like, oh, okay, this is Arabic, I can't read it, and like I'll just put it away, or like disassociate in a sense. But if you would incorporate it as a pattern, people will be more likely to ask about it. When I read the poem, I got goosebumps, and I'm like, this is too real. It reflected what's happening right now with the terror attack and all of that, but also like the Islamophobia that is happening in Canada. It also resonated with me because even in the Muslim community, you can feel the division in a sense that I'm not accepted in a specific sector of Islam, because I don't do specific things, but I have friends that follow that sector, but I still cannot celebrate Eid with them in the same mosque that they do. It's like you're getting kind of forced to get out of this community that's very strict in like beliefs and values, and then you get out of there and you create your own.
It's a poem that I can relate to through our history as Coast Salish people, having our lands taken away and being, put onto these little boxes called reserves, reservation, and having, our language and our culture and our lands taken away. But, through it all, we've survived. And that's when I hear that poem, I hear those words, we've survived, and we surface again, and we are reclaiming and repatriating what is ours, what belongs to us.
For people who are migrants who have come to this land seeking expanse, what does it mean to be in a space that has been taken from another people? And how do we create expanse for the rebuilding of sacred space?
This is actually the first time in probably 200 years that our women are going to bring these blankets together. We're all related in the Lower Mainland, the Salish people, the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Vancouver Island, the South, but in this particular area where we all live, this is going to be the first time since these blankets have been silent.
Negative or evil, whatever you want to call it, darkness, it might have set in here for a while in our area here, but we can move it. You can bring in the light, and you can bring in the positive energy, and to me that's what weavings are about. To be able to convene on Van Dieppe Park, that's pretty significant. It's a central area for the three nations to come together. And so can't wait to see that day, which is not too far off. And I'd like to see our three nations continue to work. It's a beginning.
It means a lot to work with the other ladies and the other from the other nations, because we're sharing with each other. We're getting together and talking with each other, and it's actually, as far as I know, the first time that these nations have worked together on a major piece. So it's very exciting. The feeling is very good.
Working with all the other weavers, I think, really helps with the intertwining of the cultures and the different traditions that we all carry and hold dear to our hearts.
Showing, respect and raising the profile of, some of the the concepts and the energy around weaving and how that relates to prayer, and the prayer rug. And I think it's a very innovative way of demonstrating reconciliation and really honoring the territory and the land. And I think that, I'm excited to see when the weaving comes together, the story that it tells.